Hello, Haiku here for the Historic Pauper Weekly Tournament. I'm going to be playing this interesting deck, which I'm calling Orzhov Skyfisher. So the deck is based off of, I just wanted to get a chance to play with some of the new Wilds of Eldraine cards. And so I actually think... when I started deck building and stuff, I actually think this is going to be the best card of the set for Historic Pauper. The 2-mana white enchantment that Hopeful Vigil that I said was the number one card, I think is worse than this card now that I've had a chance to play with them both. I haven't got a lot of playing time with either deck, but I've been really impressed by this card. So this is kind of what I came up with, a shell to use it. I also had a red-black deck that it's just more like an aggressive style deck that uses this as just the two mana burn. And then bargains it away a little bit, but doesn't utilize it as much as this deck, where we're going to Skyfisher it a couple times, hopefully, during the course of this tournament. So basically, another new card that I haven't been playing with. So a new card new to me card, I guess I should say, that I didn't really give much of a chance to is Bone Shards. This came out in one of the Historic Horizon sets, and it's a very efficient and flexible removal spell that I was really enjoying the synergy with Madness and First-Sphere Gargantua. So there's like a little bit of a Madness sub-theme. You have Raffine's Informant, which is just solid, and Scrapwork Mutt, and then you have some Madness cards. The Fifth Sphere is really good enough that you don't always have to Madness it. You can just hard cast it. It's a little difficult to get up to 6 mana with only 19 lands in the deck. But, Thraben cantrips, and then you chain into Skyfisher and stuff. So if the game goes late, you can draw into your 6th land and just play it, hard cast it. But a lot of the times you're going to have a discard outlet for it. The other reason why I was playing with these cards is that for other decks that are playing Hopeless Nightmare, I feel like this is kind of like a good answer to Hopeless Nightmare decks. I haven't seen anyone register with Hopeless Nightmare today, but I'm pretty impressed with this card. I think it's going to be a player, and so having stuff that you are fine discarding, I think is going to be really nice to have. Maybe not today, but in the future. I used to play I started out with 4 Scrapwork Mutts and I've cut them down. Raffine's Informant is just so much better. This 1 toughness is a liability. One nice thing is that this kind of goes into both categories. It can be a thing that you can dump into the graveyard, and it can be a enabler. I am playing the 4 Thriving Moors to occasionally choose red so I can unearth it, but that's really much it. I didn't really see a lot of other red spells that I felt comfortable kind of just splashing for. This being colorless on the front end made me feel more comfortable about it. The other big draw of this deck, in addition to Hopeless Nightmare, is Final Payment. It's a Terminate. And we really have to kind of bend over backwards to get a Terminate in Historic Pauper. Unfortunately, Cast Down has not been printed at common on Arena. So this is the best we get. And there's also the Madness red-black card. But again, you have to enable Madness. So you have to kind of play around with trying to get these to work. But this is how I was getting it to work. In the main deck, this only has a little bit of life gain with Okiba Reckoner Raids and Scoured Barrens, but then I can side in. I think white gives you a lot of good options for life gain if you're having to pay 5 life a lot. But I think there's a lot of situations where you can just sack the Hopeless Nightmare or the Okiba Reckonerate if you had to, or another creature. The other nice part about it is it's instant speed, so you can sack in response to their removal spell on your creature and kill their creature. So generally, you're probably paying one final payment with 5 life, and then the rest you're able to sacrifice an enchantment or creature to it. In the sideboard, I just have Sacred Cat, and again, another free discard card. I don't think this one was worthy enough to make main deck. I like that Scrapwork Mutt could be an enabler and a discard target, and Sacred Cat is only a discard target. But it also comes in against red decks to try to gain a little bit of life. Leonin Sanctifier is another card that helps gain life in aggressive matchups. The other kind of nice draw of playing black-white is Breathless Night, but I'm not playing with Breathless Night, even though I have some enablers to make it grow, and I could be playing with Unearth and stuff like that. I felt I used the graveyard enough that I didn't want to open myself up to getting the opponent's relics and having to deal with them. So I like this plan where it's just a little bit of graveyard synergy. If the opponent wants to bring in relics and try to deal with my stuff, that's fine. And if they don't, that's fine as well. I think it kind of pans out as a wash, where you don't have to, you're not murdered by a relic, and if they don't bring it in, you also get a little bit of value. So I was going into the other benefit of playing black-white is playing with Benalish Sleeper. It's a really good edict effect, and it can come down as a 3/1 if you need to, get some beats going. So it's an overall pretty flexible card. The issue is if they have a lot of stuff to stack. So my answer for trying to figure out how I get rid of a bunch of stuff to stack on the opponent's side is play these guys. So these guys are good against elves and ninjas, and also they are fodder to sack, and they also get balanced with Skyfisher, so they're being a permanent that you can recur and basically be a removal spell for a small creature that you can keep recurring. So I think these are pretty effective in this style deck. Skyfisher in a Orzhov Skyfisher deck. So I actually have one main deck, and I have even 2 more in the sideboard. Again, with Skyfisher, Dawnbringer Cleric. This card is flexible enough that you could actually main deck it, but right now I feel like all of the main deck options are full. Even if I had another slot, I think I would probably put Scrapwork Mutt there. I just don't feel comfortable cutting another land and going below 19 lands, and so I wanted to just make room in the main. So, but I think this is an effective sideboard card. Again, bounce with Skyfisher, blink with Cloudshift is also another synergy. And then Revoke Existence just as a one-of to deal with primarily the indestructible artifact lands. I thought this could kind of punish some decks, but also be relevant against other artifact or enchantment decks. This is just kind of a try it out and see. It's only one slot in my sideboard. And then Echoing Decay, kind of in the same realm. If I see a lot of tokens where the 4th Bridge Prowler is insufficient at clearing them up, this could potentially clear up some that all have the same name, which they tend to do. Yeah, so it's fairly aggressive. Has pretty good 1-drops to kind of really pressure the board, and then has 8 terminates that can deal with any size creatures. And then it has kind of an over-the-top plan by discarding the Gargantua, unearthing it, and then cloud shifting it. So hopefully, I'm trying to think of what decks I would want to see. I think this is kind of just a middle-of-the-road mid-range deck. I think it will do fine against the hyper-aggro decks, especially after sideboarding and some life gain. And then against the control decks, I think there's enough value here that it might do fine. The only issue against control is that a lot of these cards are dead, and then I would have to bring in some other cards against control. And then against other mid-range decks, I think this can hang. I guess where I would think it would be weak to is probably other decks that don't mind discarding cards. So basically the red-black Madness deck, Red Rakdos Madness, would probably be kind of not really caring about this card and might actually enable them a little bit. So just have to be careful in that matchup. I probably would side these out if I run into that deck. Yep, I try to play with 4 Skyfishers. It was just too often that you wouldn't have something to bounce, a good bounce target with the full 4 Skyfishers. So I went down to only 3, even though the deck is named after it. I think it, bouncing, it can bounce Bojuka Bog. It can bounce, if it has to, Raffine's Informant or Mutt to enable some discard. It also can bounce a Benalish Sleeper to go again on destroying a hexproof creature. And then in these cards is kind of where you really want to be bouncing is Thraben Inspector and Hopeless Nightmare. And Hopeless Nightmare is a much better bounce target. It's only 1 mana to replay, where, yes, you can play the Inspector for 1 mana, but you haven't got the value. You have to invest another 2 mana to crack the clue. So it's a little bit clunky. So that's why I only have 3 of them. But they're kind of nice as a fodder target and just getting in chip damage. So I'll see you for round 1 of the tournament today. We'll see how this does. I don't really know if this is... the set came out yesterday. I have gotten very minimal testing done. I just have this kind of... I don't know. The games that I've played with Hopeless Nightmare, it's been pretty effective. So I think it's going to be a pretty strong card. I just don't know if this shell is where you want to be in Historic Pauper right now. But I think this card is strong enough, so I wanted to bring a deck that showed it off. So we'll see how the deck does. I think it's going to have game against most stuff, and then we'll just hopefully get some interesting matches. See ya.